I'm honestly shocked at how large a franchise Ace Attorney is, because, let's be honest, these are some weird games. The mysteries the player has to solve are the most complicated, convoluted crimes ever conceived. The gameplay is mostly talking, the characters are outlandish, and the legal system is objectively awful. These are some weird games. And that's just it. These are games, plural. There are 2 whole trilogies and a prequel duology. There are spin-off titles, crossovers, there's an anime series, there's a stage play, a manga series, a live-action movie directed by Takashi Miike? Wait, what? I want to go back in time a bit. I want to look at the first game, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, not as the start of a giant media franchise, but as a single, standalone title. It was originally released in Japan in 2001 on the Game Boy Advance. It contained 4 cases and tells one story over the course of those cases. And that's what I want to look at, a dark timeline where these 4 cases are all of Ace Attorney. A lone, Japanese-only Game Boy adventure. Although, I'll be looking at the English release on the DS. I want to rediscover the magic of Ace Attorney 1. I want to find the contradiction of how a game so unusual captured the hearts and minds of so many people. This is how the first case opens. Right away, before we meet Phoenix or any of the other characters, before we know what it is we're even supposed to be doing, we're shown the solution of the first case's crime. We know what the murder weapon is, this replica of the Thinker, and more importantly, we're shown who the culprit is. After this, we're whisked away to the courthouse where we meet Phoenix, the player character, Mia, his mentor, and Larry, the defendant in this case. Larry has been accused of the murder that we just watched, and we've been hired to prove his innocence. In order to do that, Phoenix has to make sense of the witness's testimony. Wait a minute, is that... There's a lot about this case that Phoenix, and by extension the audience, hasn't been able to figure out yet. But despite how convoluted the testimonies may seem, we know one thing for sure. Larry is innocent. And since we know that Larry is innocent, we also know that the actual murderer is lying on the stand. And since we know that he's lying, we know that we can poke holes and find contradictions in his testimony. Okay, here's how it works. A witness will testify on the stand. In this case, Frank Sawit will make 9 statements. The player then has to cross-examine the witness by scrolling through those 9 statements in hopes of finding something that doesn't quite add up. Once a contradiction has been located, it can be proven by presenting evidence that contains said contradiction. In this case, on the 9th statement, Frank mentions that the murder took place at 1 o'clock, but the victim's autopsy report says her time of death was between 4 and 5. Well, that can't be right. Objection! And thus the central mechanic has been established. The actual central mystery in the first turnabout isn't too hard to figure out, but it's more than a little out there. Why is there an inconsistency with the time of death and the exact nature of the murder weapon are telegraphed, but still require some good old-fashioned outside-the-box thinking? And trust me, you'll need a lot of that to get through this series. These 2 mysteries help ease the player into Ace Attorney's signature brand of problem solving. Nevertheless, the big picture aspects of the crime, like the victim, the culprit, the murder method, aren't a mystery at all. They never were. By revealing these things, but leaving the details for the player to figure out, Ace Attorney establishes itself as a howdunit, as opposed to a whodunit. The game will not be about solving crimes, at least at first, but about proving innocence. There's no moral dilemma about defending this potential murderer because, well, we know that Larry is not the murderer. I mean, look at this guy. The first turnabout's key contribution is teaching the player to identify and prove contradictions. Some witnesses will lie, others will be mistaken, but pointing out their inconsistencies will be the primary way progress will be made. So Phoenix wins the case, Mia congratulates you, and Larry thanks you. The Ace Attorney formula has been fully established. On to the next case, where the Ace Attorney formula gets completely upended. This is still one of the most shocking twists I've ever seen in a game. We only know, like, 3 characters, and one of them was just killed, right off the bat. Turnabout Sisters is the first full case in Ace Attorney, and the stakes could not be higher. Story-wise, we meet 2 important characters. The first is Maya Fey, Mia's sister who is accused of the crime. However, like in the first case, we the audience saw what happened and, most importantly, who did it. Phoenix and the player never doubt Maya's innocence. Later, we meet the other main character, Prosecutor Miles Edgeworth. Phoenix is told that Edgeworth is a formidable opponent, doing whatever he can to achieve a guilty verdict. Well, okay, since Phoenix not only has to avenge Mia, but also protect her sister and his own reputation as a lawyer, Edgeworth has to be defeated. But since we know that Edgeworth is prosecuting the wrong suspect, it suggests that there is, in fact, a way that he can be defeated. This case also ramps up the complexity quite a bit, though the central mystery is fairly straightforward by Ace Attorney standards. Investigation sequences are introduced. Phoenix has to move from place to place, talk to witnesses, and search for clues, which can later be used as evidence. This section is kind of like building one's arsenal of evidence that can then be used to fire off objections in court. And in court, we encounter a new flavor of testimony. This is April May. She supposedly saw the incident happen, but nothing in her testimony matches what we know about the case. We know she's lying about Maya committing the murder. We also know that she is not the murderer herself. This reaffirms an unfortunate truth that all testimonies can be faulty. Turnabout Sisters also takes more than one in-game day to complete. Phoenix has to investigate, then go to court, then investigate a second time before finishing the trial in a second courtroom battle, where he will face the man we saw at the beginning, the con man Red White. All of the evidence gathering and contradiction finding has led to this showdown. Across this whole case, the player is tasked with piecing together the mystery. We know the solution to the puzzle, but how each piece fits together is initially unclear. What is April May's role in all this? Why is fellow lawyer Grossberg not cooperating? Why is the bellboy so weird? What's the role of the wiretap? Why is this thinker statue cursed? What is a picture of Mia's mom doing here? DL6. Turnabout Sisters establishes evidence gathering, dashes all hope of ever getting a straight answer on the stand, and sets up mysteries that have much larger, much more sinister implications. When the case is complete and Red White is brought to justice, it's hard to call it a complete victory since so many unknowns linger. Mainly, what is the DL6 case? Are the rumors about Edgeworth forging evidence true? How deep does this conspiracy go? Well, it'll be a minute before we find out because we got ourselves a good old-fashioned filler case. Okay, that's not exactly fair. Turnabout Samurai, while not playing a significant role in the larger story, still plays a significant role in establishing what exactly an Ace Attorney case is. As in, what does Phoenix and Maya working together to defend a client look like when the personal stakes aren't as high? Unlike the first two cases, this episode begins with a question, not an answer. Will Powers, a suit performer on the TV show The Steel Samurai, has been accused of murdering his co-star, Jack Hammer. This time, however, the audience does not get to see the crime occur. This time, the audience is in the dark just as much as Phoenix. Will Powers says he's innocent, but does the evidence support his story? For the most part, no, actually. Most of the evidence Phoenix finds and testimony he hears point to Powers being the culprit. A cursory look at the crime, combined with Powers' flimsy alibi, makes it look like he's guilty as charged. Except this is Ace Attorney and things are never straightforward. Turnabout Samurai introduces the concept of a case from long ago coming back to haunt the present. Phoenix and Maya have to uncover a secret from yesteryear in order to defend the person on trial today. This not only foreshadows a major aspect of the fourth case, but establishes that this sort of thing is even possible in the Ace Attorney universe. I mean, anything's possible in the Ace Attorney universe, but whatever. And that's what this third case is really about, establishing a routine. It allows the player to get comfortable in the world of Ace Attorney before the climax. It's hard to tell in a first playthrough, but Will's questionable innocence and the case from years past are aspects to this case that will come back around sooner than the player might realize. Is it important to the overarching plot? No, not really, but we do get some good Phoenix and Maya stuff. We get more Edgeworth, we get a meaty case with numerous twists and turns. All good stuff that lulls the player into a sense of normality before it gets shattered once again. The final case, like the first two, begins with an answer. A murder happens on a boat in the middle of the night. The one holding the weapon is Edgeworth. Now, defend him. Unlike Larry or Maya, whose innocence was obvious, or Will, who could go either way, Edgeworth looks guilty. Not only that, but since he's been the antagonist for most of the game, it would only be natural to want to put this guy behind bars. I mean, he's the villain, right? Edgeworth steals the show in Turnabout Goodbyes, the final case of the original Ace Attorney. The audience gets to know him as a softer, more well-rounded person. We learn of his old friendship with Phoenix and Larry. We learn of his traumatic backstory because anime. We come to believe that maybe he is innocent after all. In order to prove it, though, we have to use every tool at our disposal. The question of what time did the crime occur from the first case comes back around. Witnesses clamshelling up or being intentionally misleading plays a role once again, as does the concept of an old incident, this one being the DL6 case from before, playing a pivotal role in the current mystery. The player has to gather boatloads of evidence. They'll have to poke holes in testimony after testimony. They'll have to question just how innocent Edgeworth is. The prosecutor for this case is Manfred von Karma. He radiates final boss energy. While Winston Payne from the first case is funny due to how pathetic he comes across, and Edgeworth has comedic moments and charisma, not to mention dashing good looks, von Karma has none of that. He has no comic relief, no real redeeming qualities. He is a brick wall that has to be overcome. And while von Karma doesn't get much screen time, his essence looms over the rest of the story, though it's not apparent until we actually get to meet the guy. Edgeworth's win-no-matter-what attitude stems from von Karma. The corrupt justice system benefits von Karma and people like him. It's even revealed later on that von Karma is directly responsible for Edgeworth's trauma. He is, in a sense, the reason why Edgeworth is the way he is. So, is Phoenix's rival nothing more than a victim of circumstance? Have we been dueling von Karma via a surrogate this whole time? During this last case, it's revealed just how deep the conspiracy goes. The characters' dynamic shift one final time. The mysteries plaguing the cast are put to rest once and for all. After the credits roll, each character gets their own little send-off. It could have very well been the last appearance of any of these characters. There is no guarantee that Ace Attorney would get a sequel, much less become the franchise that it is today. When viewed as one story, one singular, self-contained story, Ace Attorney 1 is filled with twists, turns, and paradigm shifts. Each case builds on the previous one, culminating in a legendary final exam. The 4 short stories stand together to form one larger tale. Which is why it's weird when Ace Attorney 1 keeps going after this. The Nintendo DS release, which is the version that came out internationally, contains a bonus 5th case called From the Ashes that further delves into the justice system's corruption. It puts Edgeworth back in the prosecutor's seat but replaces Maya with a new character named Emma Skye, a scientific investigator. This case was designed with the DS in mind, so it makes the player dust for fingerprints with the touchscreen, use the microphone, and examine objects in 3D. It's a great case, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't do much in terms of the game's overarching story. It feels like a bonus chapter. Which it is. Justice for All, the second game in the series, does what a sequel should do. It dishes up more zany legal cases, it introduces more characters, like Maya's cousin Pearl. It irons out some of the gameplay kinks. They introduce these psych-lock things that show up when a character is hiding a secret, which really helps the pacing of the investigation sections. But there's one problem. Edgeworth, the main antagonist, is no longer strictly an antagonist. He completed his character arc, so what now? Justice for All introduces a new prosecutor, Franziska von Karma, who seeks to avenge her father's reputation. Or at least that's what we think is going on. She has her own story arc that plays out over the course of the game. Trials and Tribulations, the third Ace Attorney adventure, follows suit by introducing yet another prosecutor, and thus a pattern has been born. The easiest way to experience this pattern firsthand is through the Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy. It's available on pretty much every platform you could want, and it collects the first 3 games in the series in one convenient, extra shiny package, when the old bag has never looked better. It has saved these games from obscurity and made them available to modern audiences, which is great, but they come as a package deal. Unless you jump into the retro collecting market or boot up your emulator, there's no way to conveniently acquire the first Ace Attorney by itself. But, I mean, why would you want to? If you like one of these games, you're gonna like the other 2, right? Maybe that's why the magic of this first game feels like it gets lost in the shuffle. Over time, it's become the start of something it never really intended to start. Let's not forget that this game is weird. It's kind of a visual novel and kind of a detective game. There's plenty of murder and grisly details, yet it's filled with humor and wacky characters. The combat is carried out not by guns or swords or fists, but by words. The puzzle solutions don't always make complete sense. The game asks the player to bend their mind to the twisted logic of its world. So it's strange that Ace Attorney, of all things, gained traction in the mid-2000s. It's so decidedly different aesthetically, mechanically, and narratively from most games that were on the market at the time, or now even. I'm thankful that we ended up getting official translations of this game and the ones that followed. I'm thankful that there is a market for something so offbeat. I'm thankful that the series continues to get attention in a crowded gaming market. But it all starts with that one entry, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the first one. In its modern form, there's a guarantee that there is more to the story, that Phoenix's journey is only partially complete. These first 4 cases are part of a much, much larger narrative and not just the narrative. Let us not forget the magic of that singular narrative. Let us not forget the masterful structure of this quirky lawyer game. The magic of Ace Attorney 1 persists. It remains a wonderful, self-contained legal epic.